Welcome to the Debunkers Podcast.
Okay, imagine this. You're standing right there at the bottom of the career ladder. You're ready, you're eager to start climbing.
Or maybe you're on the other side. Right. A hiring manager looking for that fresh talent.
Exactly. But then, that first step, that really crucial entry-level job, well, what if it feels like it's shifting under your feet? Or maybe even disappearing?
Yeah, it feels less like a ladder and more like, I don't know, a tricky puzzle.
It really does. Anish Raman from LinkedIn, he put it very starkly, didn't he? He said, we're basically breaking the bottom rung of the career ladder for entry-level talent.
And look, this isn't just a feeling people have or a few stories here and there. It's a real measurable trend happening globally. And it's creating, well, a whole bunch of new challenges, not just for graduates, but for the entire economy.
Right. So today, we're going deep on this. We're diving into this really fascinating and honestly pretty complex thing, the evolving entry-level employment crisis.
We're going to try and unpack what's driving it. You mentioned AI, that's huge, but also this idea of educational inflation.
Yeah, and look at the impact, especially on Gen Z, but also the wider economy. Our mission really is to help you understand why starting your career right now might feel less like that simple climb.
And more like a high-stakes game with a totally new rule book.
Exactly. So let's ground ourselves first. Let's look at the data, because the numbers, well, they're pretty alarming.
Alarming is definitely the word. Aura Intelligence found get this, a 38% drop in entry-level job postings in 2023.
38% in 1 year.
In 1 year. That's almost 2 out of every 5 of those jobs just gone from the market.
Wow. And it's not just a one-off thing, is it? Like a temporary blip?
No, not at all. If you zoom out a bit, say between early 2021 and the middle of 2024, there's still an 11.2% drop in entry-level postings overall.
Okay, so a steady decline over several years.
Right, and what's really interesting, or maybe worrying within that, is the 7-10% decrease in positions requiring no prior experience.
So the truly entry-level jobs, the ones where you don't need experience to get experience, those are getting scarcer.
Precisely. It shows companies are shifting what they expect, even from the newest people they hire.
And this isn't just hitting people trying to get that very first job, it's impacting graduates too, right? People who've invested a lot in education.
Massively. The Economist reported something really quite striking recently. For the first time ever in the U.S., the unemployment rate for college grads aged 22 to 27, it now exceeds the national average.
Wait, really? Higher than the average for everyone?
Higher than the average, that statistic. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
It completely challenges that whole idea that a degree is a guaranteed ticket.
It does.
Yeah.
And it points to something deeper, that university wage premium, the extra money you expect to earn with a degree, it's shrinking.
So the financial return isn't what it used to be.
Not as much.
Yeah.
And on top of that, those well-trodden paths, from campus straight into a good job in tech or finance or media, they're eroding.
So those reliable pipelines are kind of drying up, or at least becoming less certain.
Exactly. Graduates are facing a much more complex job search, less linear.
But hang on, is it all just jobs disappearing? Is it pure doom and gloom? Because some people see it differently.
Well, yeah. Analyst Josh Bersin, for example, he pushes back a bit. He suggests it's not necessarily elimination, but more that companies are rebuilding and rethinking these roles.
Rebuilding how?
He argues that younger workers bring things that are incredibly valuable now, especially with AI becoming so prevalent. Things like adaptability, creativity, and digital fluency.
Okay, so skills that are maybe harder to automate or that complement AI.
Right. He sees it as critical for today's workplace. So from his perspective, it's less about jobs vanishing and more about them transforming.
That's a really important nuance, isn't it? Shifting from elimination to transformation.
Absolutely. Because for many companies, investing in that early talent is still seen as a long-term investment. They're thinking about innovation, future leaders, collaboration across generations.
They just want different things from those early hires now.
Exactly. Qualities that help shape the company's future, not just fill today's gap.
Okay, so that brings us neatly to the elephant in the room, AI.
Definitely the elephant.
It's not just another tool, is it? It feels like a genuine game changer. It's fundamentally shifting demand and creating new requirements.
Totally. And we see it in the numbers. There's been a 30% surge in entry-level jobs that specifically ask for AI skills.
30%? That's a huge jump.
In a very short time. It means graduates are now expected to come in with, fluency in computer science, data tools, or maybe those soft skills that can't be replicated by machines.
And this isn't just for, hardcore tech roles.
No, not at all. Think about marketing someone using AI for content ideas, or audience analysis, or finance understanding AI-driven market analysis or automated reports. It's becoming a basic literacy.
And it's happening fast. You mentioned AI roles already make up 14% of all software jobs.
Yeah, 14%. It's not some far-off future thing. It's here now.
Which must mean companies are scrambling, right? They're having to rewrite job descriptions and redefine entry-level expectations faster than people can actually learn these new skills.
Absolutely. There's this great example from Louise N. at LinkedIn. She talked about how AI tools like ChatGPT can now automate drafting job descriptions.
Oh, right. A task that often went to an entry-level HR admin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, boom, it potentially eliminates the need for administrators for that specific task. It shows how AI is creeping into even basic administrative functions.
The routine stuff.
The routine, often repetitive tasks that used to be those first steps on the ladder.
But it's not just taking away tasks, it's creating new roles, too.
Oh, for sure. We're seeing totally new positions emerge. Things like AI ethics leads, super important, prompt engineers, people who know how to talk to the AI.
Right.
And obviously more need for sophisticated cybersecurity talent.
It sounds like a whole new frontier opening up.
It really is. And the scale of this change is massive. McKinsey estimates that by 2030, something like 375 million workers globally.
375 million.
Yeah, that's about 14% of the entire global workforce might need to switch occupational categories because of AI and digitization.
Wow. That's a huge number of people needing to potentially change careers entirely.
And the pace could be faster than anything we've seen historically.
Yeah.
It makes that idea of a single, stable career path seem almost quaint.
Okay, so AI is rewriting the job market. What about education? Is it keeping up? We're hearing this term educational inflation or credential inflation.
Right. It basically means jobs are demanding higher educational requirements than the actual role needs.
Like needing a PhD to flip burgers. Okay, maybe not that extreme, but...
Yeah, maybe not quite. But the principle holds. Think about the U.S. high school diploma. It used to signify entry to the middle class, right? Now it often barely qualifies the graduate for menial service work.
That's a big shift.
And jobs that maybe only needed primary school before construction, making shoes, cleaning, now often need that high school diploma.
And it goes up from there.
Oh yeah, jobs that needed a high school diploma before, like loans officers or executive assistants, increasingly want a bachelor's degree.
Okay, I see the pattern. Degree creep.
Exactly. And it keeps going. Even director roles in the Canadian federal government used to be a bachelor's. Now they often need a master's.
Get out of here. A master's for a director role.
Yep. And for university professor jobs, forget just a PhD. Now it's increasingly one or more postdoctoral fellowship appointments.
So you need postdocs on top of the PhD just to get in the running.
Often, yes.
Ah.
Part of it is just filtering applicants, obviously. If you get hundreds of applications, demanding a higher degree cuts the pile down.
Makes sense from their side, I guess. But why the obsession with degrees if they aren't always strictly needed for the tasks?
Well, employers often use the degree as a proxy, right? A signal for quality employees.
A proxy for what, though?
For things that are hard to measure quickly. Discipline, baseline knowledge, sure, but also those crucial soft skills, writing, analytical thinking, even just basic maturity.
Ah, okay. So it's a shortcut to assess those harder to pin down qualities.
Especially in the knowledge economy. The output of knowledge labor is less tangible than, say, building a chair. So credentials become a stand-in for competence. An imperfect one, maybe, but a convenient one.
But the consequence for individuals...
The consequence is significant. About 1/3 of all college graduates end up underemployed.
1/3? That seems incredibly high.
It is. It means their jobs are effectively below the value of their degrees. They're overqualified for the work they're doing.
That's a massive waste of talent and potential, isn't it? Not just frustrating for the person, but bad for the economy, too.
Absolutely. Which leads to another really interesting point. It's not always a genuine skills gap, like young people literally don't have the skills.
Okay, so what is it then?
Often it's more of a skills signaling gap. Young people might actually have the skills employers want, but they lack awareness or knowledge about which skills are most valued, or they fail to signal them effectively.
So they have the goods, but they're not advertising them correctly.
Pretty much. There's a great example. In some emerging markets, you look at job postings, and soft skills make up maybe 25% of the top 20 skills listed.
Right. Things like communication, teamwork.
Exactly. But then you look at young people's LinkedIn profiles in those same markets and those skills. They do not appear among any of the top 10 skills they list.
What did they list?
Mostly job-specific technical skills, coding languages, software proficiency, that kind of thing.
So there's a mismatch. Employers want soft skills, but applicants are only highlighting hard skills.
It suggests they probably have many of those soft skills from life, from projects, from volunteering, but they don't realize how important it is to showcase them or maybe how to talk about them in a way employers recognize.
They need to learn how to translate their experiences.
Precisely. But we should be clear. Technical skills are still vital. They haven't gone away.
Oh, for sure.
When you look at entry-level postings, job-specific technical skills still dominate the demand. It ranges from maybe 42% of the top 20 skills in Indonesia up to 71% in India.
So it's not either. You need both. The technical chops and the ability to communicate, collaborate, signal those softer skills.
It's definitely an evolving balance. Both are crucial now.
And the stakes here are incredibly high. We're talking about the human cost.
It's huge. Globally, youth unemployment affects around 73 million individuals. And young people, say 15 to 24, are up to 4 times more likely to be unemployed than adults.
4 times! That's a massive disparity.
It's a systemic problem. And it gets worse when you factor in things like recessions. Youth are especially impacted. And it leads to what economists call economic scarring.
Scarring. What does that mean exactly?
It means graduating or entering the workforce during a downturn isn't just a temporary setback. It causes long-lasting damage to your future earnings, your employment prospects, your wages.
Yeah.
For at least 10 years.
A decade or more, just from bad timing.
Yeah. It's like starting a race way behind the starting line.
Yeah.
For instance, research in the UK showed that just 1 additional month of unemployment between ages 18 and 20 permanently lowers earnings by around 1.2% per year.
Wow. Every single year after that.
Every year. And these effects are especially high for the least educated, which just widens the inequality gap. It makes it incredibly hard to break out of that cycle.
And it's not just about money, is it? The impact goes deeper.
Much deeper. Youth unemployment is strongly linked to lower self-esteem, serious mental health issues, including depression and anxiety.
That makes sense. It must be incredibly demoralizing.
It is. And tragically, it can increase the likelihood of other negative outcomes, divorce and childlessness, worse physical health, even, sadly, an increased chance of committing a crime.
It sounds like it can trap people.
It really can. It can lock individuals into a cycle of poverty that can take generations to break. It's not just an individual problem, it's a societal one with very long roots.
And then there's another layer, something relatively new. Remote work. Great flexibility, potentially, but it has downsides for young talent.
Yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, especially in fields like software development, maybe. For people who aren't strong introverts, who thrive on a bit more interaction, fully remote work can actually feel like a prison.
How so?
It cuts down on those spontaneous interactions, right? The informal mentoring, the quick chats, the networking that just happens organically in an office. All really crucial stuff when you're starting out.
That out of sight, out of mind thing.
Exactly. It can mean less support, lower productivity, definitely slower career advancement, even if you have the job. You miss out on learning by osmosis, those quick questions to a senior colleague.
Things that are especially important when you're trying to find your footing early on.
Disproportionately important, yeah.
Okay, so we've really unpacked the problem. The falling numbers, the skills mismatch, the human cost, even the remote work complexities. Let's talk solutions. How do we start rethinking this ladder? Who needs to adapt first? Employers seem key.
Definitely. Employers have a huge role. Or intelligence suggests they need to refine entry-level hiring strategy. Focus more on applied skills, not just pedigree.
So look beyond the university name or the GPA.
Right. Emphasize proven capability over academic credentials alone. Value things like internships, freelance work, or certifications. Look at what people can do, not just what paper they have.
It's about moving beyond just ticking boxes.
It is. And Anish Raman argues really passionately for redesigning those first jobs, making them roles with growth in mind.
How does that work?
Dividing them to teach adaptability, not repetition. Making them springboards, not stalls. Consciously building in diverse experiences, mentorship, chances to develop those transferable skills, not just narrow, easily automated tasks.
And are businesses actually recognizing this need?
It seems so. McKinsey found that 66% of executives see addressing potential skills gaps related to automation digitization for their current workforce as a top priority.
66%. That's high.
Yeah, it shows the C-suite knows the workforce is changing, and they need to equip everyone, new hires and existing staff, for what's coming.
Okay, so employers need to adapt hiring and job design. What about education? Universities seem like they're under pressure too.
Big time. They face a pretty fundamental challenge. They arguably need fundamental reform, rethinking what they learn and how they support them to learn.
Which involves that tricky debate, right? Is university about knowledge for its own sake, or is it primarily job training?
Exactly. And the reality is it probably needs to be more of both now. They definitely need to do a better job informing students about the actual needs and demands of the labor market.
And provide better career guidance earlier on.
Much earlier. And crucially, forge stronger partnerships with employers. Actually simulate early career experiences through co-ops, real-world projects, better internships. Bridge that gap between academic theory and workplace reality.
That practical exposure could make a huge difference.
Absolutely. And then, of course, there's the individual. What can young people themselves do?
Empowerment and strategy, right.
Embracing lifelong learning is key. Millennials already get this. They're often willing to spend their own time and order money on additional training. That mindset is essential now.
And using the tools available, like LinkedIn.
Definitely. We saw earlier that many young people, especially in emerging markets, underutilize LinkedIn, even though tons of entry-level positions are posted there.
So it's not just for job hunting, but for networking, building your brand, showcasing work.
All of that, and mastering that skills signaling we talked about. Getting help, maybe through career counseling or mentors, to self-assess their skills and then translate them, especially those soft skills, into language employers value.
Turning led a student club into demonstrated leadership and project management.
Exactly that kind of translation.
And finally, what about alternatives to university? Vocational paths, apprenticeships, are they becoming more relevant again?
Very much so. They're gaining renewed recognition. Look at France. They invested billions, 6.7 billion ERR into strengthening apprenticeships, and it's helped over 2 million people.
Wow, 2 million. That's impactful.
It provides a direct route into employment with practical skills. Even the ILO suggests Brazil, where many youth jobs are vulnerable to AI, should really improve its apprenticeship system.
So these hands-on paths are a really viable, maybe even preferable option for some roles now.
They offer a vital alternative or complement, especially for developing specialized skills that AI can't easily replicate.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We've peeled back the layers on this entry-level crisis. It's clear the market isn't just vanishing, it's fundamentally transforming.
Right. It's demanding new skills, smarter ways for job seekers to signal those skills, and big adaptations from companies and educators.
It really is about evolving, signaling strategically, and adapting to these constantly shifting sands of work and learning.
It demands a much more fluid, proactive approach from everyone. Less rigid paths, more agile navigation.
Absolutely. Which leaves us with a final thought. If that traditional career ladder is really breaking apart, what does that even mean for the idea of climbing the corporate ladder anymore?
Yeah, is success now less about climbing and more about, agile leaping, building your own kind of scaffold as you go?
Right. And in a world where AI is handling more and more of the routine tasks, what are the truly indispensable skills? Maybe it comes down to that genuine human connection, creativity, critical thinking, the things that make us uniquely human becoming the ultimate differentiator. It seems our time for today is wrapping up.
We really appreciate you joining us for this deep dive.
It's always great having your input and thoughts.
But sadly, it seems we've run out of time for today.
Thank you so much for listening and for being such an engaged part of our podcast. Until our next deep dive together.
Goodbye for now, and we'll see you next time.